yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Born and dead, saved by love. Count my blessings from above. Though in darkness, have no fear. Light will shine on those holding near. They know that sorrow they will pass. For I know in this life there will be something. But remember that love, yes it will. Love will reign. Yeah. Love will reign. Yeah. In my heart, I believe it. Love will reign. Oh, yeah, yeah. Have a vision. It's clear and plain. People living life, smiling again. Oh, see the children. They know no pain. Far from pressure, stress and strain. Oh, sorrow, they will pass. For I know in this life there's gonna be some pain. But remember that love, yes it will. I know. Yeah. Love will reign. Gotta believe it. In my heart, I truly believe. Sun will shine again, and love, I can hardly wait. When the light of love shines on us, we'll all be together. There'll be peace, peace, sweet peace. There'll be peace, happiness and joy forever. Oh, yeah. One day, someday, pain will be over and love will reign. They won't last, for I know in this life there's gonna be some pain. But in the end, love will reign. Yeah. Love will reign.
Love will reign. I am excited on this Tuesday, March 7th, to be here with you. I'm Marcus Holmes, the Love Activist, and whether you're watching us here live from the Love and Stuff community page on Facebook or Marcus R. Holmes page or any of the love groups or groups attached thereto, or you're on LinkedIn Live tonight, Twitch TV, Twitter, or YouTube events, take a moment and say good evening in the comments and click share. Tag 5 of your closest friends, 5 of your more popular ones, connections, subscribers, or followers to join us as it is March and it's Women's History Month. So some of the content that we will share is replay content, but we want you to click share and tag others to join us as we celebrate Women's History Month. It is not lost on us that 76% of the people that come through the Love and Stuff community are women. And so we want to celebrate their history as part of our history. It is our history together. And some of the laudable achievements that have been made are being made and will continue to be made. And we want to shout them out all month long. So if you know of an extraordinary woman, past, present, or becoming, drop their name in the comments or go to the Love and Stuff inbox and drop their picture, because we'd like to include it as we go throughout the month and celebrate the great women who make up our history. So take a moment. If you are on Facebook and send us stars, you can send us stars right now, or you can give us likes or loves and celebrates across all of the other platforms. We'd appreciate your support as we go through. And tonight, again, there's going to be some of the content that's replay content because we want to have a focus again. You would have heard from last week's show a little bit read into the record of Shirley Chisholm of her nominating speech when she ran for president of the United States. One of the first African Americans to do so, but an African American woman to do so. Long before we had our illustrious vice president, we had other women, of course, who were standing forward and becoming the foundation upon which women who would follow them, like Vice President Harris, would stand upon a sure foundation. So I hope that you will click share, and we will be sharing content from our celebration of women in history. And I hope that you will enjoy that, and we'll be back throughout because we want to share things like the Love and Stuff. Turned it upside down. The Gratefulness Journey Everyday book, which is available to you now. What are you doing in the next 30 days to transform your life? Many people are on a journey of introspection during this time of the year. Some of them, from a faith-based standpoint, are going through the Lenten season. Some people are trying to get their mind, body, and soul together. Well, this is an important tool for you to add into your arsenal of becoming the best that you can be. And I know I'm biased because I'm the author, but it's 3 things that you can do every day to transform your life. And after 30 days, it becomes a habit for you and it will transform the world around you. And so I hope that you will consider getting the Gratefulness Journey every day. And later in the hour, you'll have some opportunity to shop right here live if you so choose to, with many of the things that we have in our Love and Stuff store, that we have opportunities for you to get live, and some of the ebooks that you don't want to go forward without having. So I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to see the content that we're sharing. It is replay content in part because we wanted to, again, remind you there is a logical bridge from our Black history to women's history. There are many women who undergird still today and have in the past undergirded the efforts of the civil rights movement, and we want to celebrate them and continuing to celebrate all month long. So take a moment right now, click share, tag someone to join us as we prepare to share with you information. I hope it will be information that you will appreciate. And just before we do that, think about the brands that you wear. Think about the brands that you live. Think about loving the brands. What you wear says something about you, about who you are, what you believe, and what you stand for. So here in the Love and Stuff community, we wear the brand that we live, and we live the brand that we wear because we love the brand. It's all about increasing the amount of love in the world and upping our love game. And if that's what you're about, you should wear it too. If that's what you're about, you should wear it too. That's right. You'll have an opportunity to look at some of the items in our brand, and our brand is all about love. We want to be more love. We want to seek more love, and we believe that love is what it does. So we want to be love that is doing as well in our world. If you want to join us on an extraordinary journey, this is the journey to join us on by living the brand you wear, wearing the brand you live, and loving the brand. We're excited that we have that opportunity to share with you. And just in a bit, we will share some of those things live that you can scan right from the QR code. Right now, we're going to go into our Black History, Women's History segment around civil rights, and we'll be back shortly after that. We're going to just talk a few things about Women's History Month and share with you a few things from many different resources, among them Sisters in the Struggle, Passing the Torch, African American Women in the Civil Rights Movement, and other sources as well. Since Africans arrived in Jamestown, Virginia in 1619, women have been involved in the African American experience. They have been and still are instrumental in shaping America and in the journey of African Americans from slavery to freedom, as we've been talking about, from the suffragist movement and before, through people like Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is in the Senate hearings for an appointment for the Supreme Court. So just think about how far women have come. And of course, many women would say how much farther we have to go, right? Women have to go. Despite the fact that they were at the bottom of the social ladder, deprived of all rights, vulnerable to sexual and physical abuse by white males, and disliked and scorned by many white women, African American women held their families and communities together. Anybody agree with that? They have distinguished themselves by their perseverance, their ability to adapt to overcome hardships, and ability to meet the challenges that face them every day. And they have a triple barrier, right? Race, gender, and class, right? And these barriers, though, have given them the courage to succeed in many chosen professions: education, law, business, medicine, entertainment, you name it. Mary McLeod Bethune stated, by the very force of circumstances, the part that the Black woman, has played in the progress of the race has been necessity to an extent, subtle and indirect. She has not always been permitted a place in the front ranks where she could show her face and make her voice heard with effect. She has been quick to seize every opportunity which presented itself to come more and more into the open and strive directly for the uplift of the race and nation, unquote. And that's Mary McLeod Bethune. And I'm sure you know who that is, but I certainly wanted to just drop an overlay of her pick as we continue through this tribute to women in this Women's History Month. And I know there are tons of women that are killing the game, as they would say it, in today. But we wanted to take a look back at some of the women as part of the civil rights movement. And the civil rights movement began in America as early as the 17th century. Blacks and whites, the enslaved in Virginia and the Quakers in Pennsylvania, protested the cruelty and dehumanizing effects of slavery, right? And so many people, Nat Turner, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, William Lloyd Garrison, John Brown, and Harriet Tubman are few who led that resistance before the Civil War. And after the Civil War, another long and still active battle continues against the injustices, right? For many, we think of Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, and many other decisions. But the civil rights movement coalesced the individual dreams of so many men and women joined together to awaken this nation to the pursuit of liberty. Court unlocked the door, but constant pressure had to be applied by thousands of men and thousands of women in the civil rights movement to push the doors open wide. The civil rights movement was merely a continuation of a long-standing tradition for anti-lynching laws, for full employment, against Jim Crow laws, the struggles for suffrage, and many published accounts, and among them the conference in Atlanta from 88 focused on the civil rights trailblazers and torch bearers of 1944 to 1965. So many people played a special role in this, and we could not, of course, enumerate all of the people who play a special role, but indeed we want to speak some of their names of great women and great women who made great history as Black women historians as well. From the 1890s through the first half of the 20th century, Black women historians overcame a different set of barriers than their male counterparts in earning their doctorates, publishing, securing employment, receiving professorial promotions, and gaining respect in academia. In 1925, at the age of 66, Anna Julia Cooper became the first African American woman to earn a doctorate in history at the University of Paris. In 1940, more than a decade after Cooper's monumental accomplishment, Marion Thompson Wright became the first African American woman to earn a PhD in history from Columbia University in the United States. There was a significant lapse in time between Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois earning his doctorate from Harvard in 1895, and Anna Julia Cooper and Marion Thompson Wright earning theirs, which is no surprise, right? Historically, African American women have faced significant opposition from various fronts in pursuing and attaining higher education, especially in elite graduate programs, right? And so we want to call their names and laud their names for being women, trailblazing women, at the start of what might have been considered more formal civil rights and women's rights, because we talked last week and weeks previously about the two different movements that covered women, mostly Caucasian women, and then women, African American women. So this right to have enjoy the same freedoms as men, Black women professionals being in academia and experiencing sexism and racism and classism, which we don't speak as much about. And Black female intellectuals have historically possessed a distinct desire to persevere. And so we see that in two of these women among many women. And before I pivot to the sisters in the struggle and talk a little bit more intimately about some of these women, Mary McLeod Bethune, Ella Baker, and Rosa Parks and others, I want to take a moment to just highlight one of our women within the Love and Stuff community who has a beautiful business, and we'll just do quickly Christina Smith's Powerful Money Tools, LLC.
Welcome to Powerful Money Tools, LLC. At Powerful Money Tools, we are here to prepare for your future. We want to talk about financial freedom. Financial freedom is budgeting, credit building, and also financial education. So once again, welcome to Powerful Money Tools, LLC. We can't wait to help you in your financial future.
Women are always killing the game, as it were. Marcus Holmes, the love activist, and I hope across platforms that you are with us and clicking share. That was Christina Smith, who is a entrepreneur, solopreneur extraordinaire, and one of her businesses is to help women especially get their financial situations together. So you want to reach out to her. She is here on Facebook, or Powerful Money Tools LLC, and she will help you. Many women have been blessed by her help. It's tax time, ladies. You might want to get your taxes and situations together, or fellas. She's a great resource to have. And so thank you, Christina, for being a valued part of our community. I want to share with you from Sisters in the Struggle as we continue to highlight African American women in civil rights. There is a piece by Gwendolyn Brooks that I will share from the second sermon on the Warp Land as we go into talk about our African American sisters in the struggle. The time cracks into furious flower. lifts its face all unashamed and sways in wicked grace, whose half-black hands assemble oranges as Tom-hearted, goes and bearing oranges in bloom. And there are bells for orphans and red and shrieking sheen. A garbage man as dignified as any diplomat. Big Bessie's feet hurt like nobody's business, but she stands bigly under the unruly scrutiny, stands in the wild seed and the wild weed. She is a citizen, and in a moment of highest quality, admirable. It is lonesome, yes, for we are the last of the loud. Nevertheless, live. Conduct your blooming in the noise and width of the whirlwind. Again, excerpt from Gwendolyn Brooks' The Second Sermon on the Workland. From the time that American women arrived on the shore of what came to be known as the New World, they have been caught up in a whirlwind of forces, oftentimes beyond their control. Having survived horrors of the Middle Passage, as if that wasn't enough, these mothers, grandmothers, aunties, TTs, big moms, daughters were shackled and hurled into makeshift vehicles that carried them to dark dungeons and desolate shacks. The women were forced to do back-breaking labor the same as men, but had to endure the added burden of unwanted sexual intimacies of the slavers. These women lived and sometimes died for their children and created families that helped to sustain them while the howling winds of oppression swirled around them, threatening to engulf the few things that came to matter most. Strengthened by an unshakable faith in God's justice from slavery to freedom, they managed to conduct their blooming in the noise and the whip of the whirlwind. And many historians and scholars have begun to document and have documented and interpret the unique experiences of African American women in this new world in general, and in the United States in particular. For African Americans, the roots of the Black Power movement can be traced to the 1920s and Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association. Black Power was nourished in the 1930s by the National Negro Congress and in the 1940s by A. Philip Randolph's March on Washington movement. And it came to fruition in the 1950s and 60s with the Nation of Islam and the Black nationalist ideologies of Malcolm X. Throughout the first half of the 20th century, African Americans demanded equal treatment and first-class citizenship to lay the groundwork for the development of Black political and economic power. And African American women made significant contributions to all these campaigns, as well as to the civil rights and Black movements. And so there are many, 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 too many to really articulate, but we want to talk a little bit about some of the groundwork that was laid relative to African American women in the civil rights movement. In V.P. Franklin and Betty Collier's Thomas essay for the race in general and the Black women in particular, the civil rights activities of African American women's organizations 1915 to 1950, they describe how Black women's organizations attempted to pry open the closed doors confronting African Americans. That controversy to the argument presented in some of the emergent scholarship on Black feminism, women did not define an exclusively feminist agenda for advancing the race. Important to note. The women's groups had, as a part of their overall mission, a commitment to engage in activities for the advancement of the African people at the local, national, and even the international levels. And many of the activities of the New Jersey State Federation of Colored Women, a division of the National Association of Colored Women, the National Council of Negro Women, and the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Nonpartisan Council, African American women systemically systematically, organized social welfare services in Black communities and worked for the passage of legislation to eliminate segregation and discrimination in education, in voting rights, the military, employment, and other areas. So we're talking about grassroots work. Civil rights activism became a part of these women's group identities, and the social and political agendas that they pursued was meant to benefit all African Americans in general, and Black women in particular. Unlike Mary McLeod Bethune, who received great acclaim and formal recognition for many years of her contributions to Black advancement, Ella Baker, for many years, was an unsung hero of the civil rights movement. Many recent publications have documented her influence within the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. However, Barbara Ransby's essay, Behind the Scenes View of a Behind the Scenes Organizer, The Roots of Ella Baker's Political Passions, it presents an intimate portrait of Baker's early years in North Carolina, her relations with her mother, and her circle of friends in the 1930s and 40s who helped develop and sustain her radical democratic humanism. Baker's experiences in the 1930s with the World's Workers' Education Project of the Works Progress Administration, the Young Negroes Cooperative League, and their leftist groups introduced her to economic alternatives to the capitalist system. While her travels throughout the South in the 1940s as field secretary for the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, provided her with the personal knowledge needed for organizing the Black working class. Ella Baker's passionate attachment to her political and economic principles inspired a new generation of men and women to look beyond what is and to work selflessly to bring about what ought to be. And so I want to definitely bring up the picture of Ella Baker so that you can see her as well as we continue. Okay. All right. Ella Baker is perhaps best known for her role as a supporting actor in the civil rights movement drama of the 1950s and 60s. But the breadth and depth of her role in the Black freedom movement is often underrated. From the 1930s until her death in 1986, Ella Baker participated in over 30 organizations and campaigns ranging from the Negro Cooperative Movement during the Depression to the Free Angela Davis campaign in the 1970s. Her best documented role in the modern civil rights movements was first as National Director of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and more importantly, as founder and advisor to the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee for its first 6 years of existence. Although many people can claim credit for the political impact of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and its impact on the larger civil rights movement in the nation, Ella Baker was probably the single most influential individual within the organization. James Foreman, the executive secretary of SNCC, once observed that there were many people who knew the light that was SNCC without ever knowing the spark that was Ella Baker. Stokely Carmichael, who succeeded John Lewis as chairman of the SNCC in 1966, described Baker as one of the most powerful individuals, if not the most powerful, in SNCC, no question. Activist, historian, cultural performer, and former SNCC member Bernice Johnson Reagan recognizes Ella Baker as her political mother. Ella was a physical and psychological anchor for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, even though she was not a student and only partly subscribed to its professed commitment to nonviolence. A veteran organizer and 57 years old when the student-led sit-ins began in February 1960, Baker became a key source of support, guidance, and stability for the youthful leaders who would come together to officially found SNCC the following October. Baker helped to convene the founding meeting, garnered space and resources, drafted many of the group's early documents, and advised its leaders on strategy, structure, and life. But then she did more than that. She provided intellectual and political leadership to the SNCC, even as she cast herself as a mere facilitator. The young SNCC leaders would model themselves after Ella Baker, following her example and, in practice, build upon her political philosophy, a philosophy based on militant anti-racism, grassroots popular democracy, a subversion of traditional class and gender hierarchies, and a long-term vision for fundamental social and economic change. In addition to the lessons Ella Baker conveyed and the example she set, she also provided SNCC activists with a strong connection to history. A common myth about the civil rights movement, especially the Black Power phase of the movement, is that these periods of intense political protest simply erupted on the national scene with little connection to early periods of struggle. But while the intensity and widely publicized character of the protests may have represented a departure from the past, the spirit of determined resistance did not. Ella Baker often railed against the stereotype that Black Southerners were passive and complacent before 1955. And if any single life or political career belayed this myth, it was hers. She was an advisor, a teacher, and a confidant to many young people who came of age politically in the 1960s. But she knew much more about their lives than they knew about hers. In the words of the SNCC leader and Baker protege, Robert Moses, we didn't know much about Ella's life before SNCC. She brought that history with her. Ella Baker is often referred to as behind-the-scenes leader, and she motivated many throughout her life to stand forward and stand strong in the fight for civil rights and justice. So we speak her name, Ella Baker. And we are going to go to Mary McLeod Bethune and tell a little bit more about her right after I share with you another entrepreneur within our community. He is the owner of Sisson Hardware Flooring. And if you're looking to remodel or restore hardwood floors, take a look at this. He is who you should have. That's Ernest Sisson of Sisson Hardware and Flooring. He is doing work around the city, around the state, around the country, flying everywhere because of the work ethic, the customer experience, and the finished product. You will not be disappointed with going with Sisson Hardware. 313-971-4590. Tell Ernest Love and Stuff sent you. We're going back to For the Love of Women from the Sisters of the Struggle to talk a little bit about Mary McLeod Bethune, who is, as we mentioned, more noted than you may have heard of the behind-the-scenes leadership of Ella Baker. but we wanted to mention her during this time that we're having the love of our women in this Women's History Month who have provided healing and promoted hope. And certainly Mary McLeod Bethune fits that moniker. Mary McLeod Bethune, 1875 to 1955, stands as an eminent American and one of the country's most distinguished women. Like about a half dozen other African Americans, she transcended a field to make an essential contribution to the development of Black America. Especially in relationship to Black women, her contributions to major historical developments warranted often repeated encomiums as First Lady of Race. She achieved the status despite an unpromising beginning, including an extremely dark complexion. Her farming parents were slaves, as were most of her 16 siblings. She attended 2 missionary-supported Black schools, one 5 miles from her home outside rural Maysville, South Carolina. The other, Barba Scotia, a residential girls' seminary in Concord, North Carolina. Afterward, she spent a year at the integrated Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. Returning to the South, she launched a teaching career. Inspired in part by educational role models Emma J. Wilson and Lucy Laney, this career choice blossomed into much more. Along the way, she experienced marriage and motherhood, but they proved minor hindrances to a public life, even though initially the public frowned on Black or white women in that arena. Bethune, however, would not be deterred because of her passionate belief in the leadership ability of Black women and their need to fulfill their essential functions in advancing the race. In the decades before the U.S. Supreme Court repudiated the separate but equal doctrine in 1954, and virulent, legalized, and pervasive racial subordination sometimes made Black militancy a matter of you walk down the street with your head up. Bethune understood the centrality of the civil rights struggle to American democracy and to the world. Bethune also helped to blaze the way to the civil rights era by providing encouragement to people of African descent, using the political system to her advantage and participating in freedom-fighting organizations. With highly acclaimed accomplishments, oratory, and courage, she inspired her racial kin to hold on and fight for the time when color was irrelevant to opportunity. With regard to achievements, this formidable woman worked wonders. She founded and developed an initially small, nondescript elementary school into Bethune-Cookman College, a baccalaureate institution which thrives today. She engineered new military and public service opportunities for many Black women especially, both nationally and internationally. While a bureaucrat in the nation's capital during the desperation and anxiety of the depression of war, like the mother of the race, she succored youth with social services, educational grants, vocational training, and government-facilitated jobs. Also, she became at large leader of Black America, as indicated by her organizing and sustaining the mostly male Federal Council on Negro Affairs, better known as the Black Cabinet. This involved bringing together for unified thought and action all of the Negroes high in government authority in service to the race. In addition to her triumphs, African Americans took heart from this remarkable woman through her magnificent oratory. Speaking in choice diction, free of regional flavor, she used her organ-chimed voice to fire up occasions in ways most listeners found memorable. Consequently, she was a much sought after speaker. Her raw courage, another tribute inspiring masses, another attribute rather inspiring masses, caused the Washington Post to editorialize that it was equal to any crisis. Certainly, the white robed KKK could not intimidate her, even while marching twice in front of her school in Daytona Beach, Florida. Once to retaliate for her sitting in a railway car for whites only, the other to prevent her and other Black women from registering to vote. Besides dispensing greatly needed encouragement to people of color, Bethune advanced civil rights through the political system, first as a Republican, and after the 1932 presidential election as a Democrat. Aubrey Williams, the director of the Depression-spawned National Youth Administration, in which Bethune reigned over Negro affairs, attested she was a doggone good politician. She knew how to use other people for ends she wanted to achieve. She had good goals. She used any means at hand to achieve them. End of quote. Bethune put her celebrity to work in the political campaigns of several liberal Democrats, including President Franklin D. Roosevelt and Harry Truman, U.S. Senator Herbert Lehman from New York, and California Congresswoman Helen Gahagan Douglas. She campaigned nonstop, however, for the effective enfranchisement of African Americans and used their ballot to advance an agenda that embraced anti-lynching, employment, education, healthcare, and housing. Bethune pressed for an end to discriminatory practices and policies throughout organizations. She worked in and with many, including the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the National Urban League, the Commission on Interracial Cooperation, the Southern Conference for Human Welfare, the Southern Conference for Educational Fund, the National Committee to Abolish the Poll Tax, and the National Committee for Justice in Columbia, Tennessee, 1946. Her earliest and dearest freedom fighting organizations, such as the National Association of Colored Women and the International Council of Women of the Darker Races, were womanist, so named because these Black sister groups address gender and racial issues simultaneously without necessarily criticizing Black men. Although these activist Black women eagerly endeavored to work with white women's groups, sometimes racism sparked friction, as in the 1925, when the International Council of Women sponsored an entertainment in Washington, D.C. with segregated seating. Bethune, president of the National Association of Colored Women, worked with others in reversing the practice. This experience proved valuable in mounting large assaults against legal segregation, especially during her tenure as president of the National Council of Negro Women, which she founded in 1935. While helping to blaze the path to civil rights by inspiring a race, using the political process, and participating in numerous progressive organizations. At intervals, Mary McLeod Bethune addressed predominantly white audiences. Closed Doors, the speech that we will read an excerpt of, targets such Northeastern groups in the latter half of 1936. She declares therein that the white racism has produced the greatest handicap known, to be Black and then to be a Black woman. Moreover, she intimates that if most white people had their way, they would even co-sign people of color to a segregated eternity. This titan engages her audience diplomatically, however, using the metaphor door for civil rights. Even though African Americans confront closed doors, they want to enter every door. She understands that in her era, some doors were shut so tightly that they could not be opened, but with tact, skill, and persistence, others would. Additional doors would give way because African Americans would batter them down. Bethune attributes President Franklin D. Roosevelt with an inclination to open doors to all Negroes. Scholars would later emphasize that in the 1930s, Roosevelt's administration did not exclude African Americans from the New Deal program. Knowing what the federal government needed to do, what African Americans were doing and would do, Bethune challenged white America to open these doors. Otherwise, this places Blacks in a position analogous to the patriots who fought in the American Revolution. From a fount of democratic ideology, Christian principle, and human decency, Bethune joins a long Black continuum of freedom-seeking voices, male and female, that speak to the conscience of America. And this excerpt from Closed Doors. Frequently, from some fair-minded speaker who wishes his platform utterances to fall on pleased ears, comes this expression: do not continually emphasize the fact that you are a Negro. Forget that. And quite as frequently, there is always the desire to hurl back this challenge. You be a Negro for just one short 24 hours and see what your reaction will be. 1,000 times during that 24 hours, without a single word being said, he would be reminded and would realize unmistakably that he is a Negro. These are some of the experiences he would have that would be exactly as mine often are. One morning, I start to catch a train. There was plenty of time to make the train with ease. Although several taxicabs passed as I stood on the corner trying to hail one, several minutes passed before one would stop to serve me, and so caused me to be 3 minutes late in catching that train. On another occasion, with time to spare, with sufficient money in my pocket to have every comfort that was necessary, I found that I was compelled to take a Jim Crow car in order to reach my destination in Mississippi. As a passenger on that Jim Crow car, there were no service that I could receive in securing a meal, although from every other coach accommodation could be had. When last winter a number of Negro women were discussing where their respective children should attend school, they were limited to the consideration of Negro schools exclusively, since they were all members of a Southern community. Then, as they thought of further education for their children, they were again limited to those institutions which will accept a limited number of Negro students. Some little while ago, one of the best lecturers in this country was giving a lecture at the close of the midweek religious service. And there again, although the services and the lecture appealed to me, there was no way that I could, with any sense of self-respect, enter when I realized the segregation and separation that awaited me on that occasion. Not only the cultural avenues, but the economic fields are closed also. My boy belonged to a labor union, but when there came the chance for the distribution of jobs, it was not until all white applicants had been supplied. And even though he is a skilled laborer, nothing was offered him in his own field, but he was forced to accept a job as a common laborer. The white collar jobs are largely closed to the majority Negroes, although they have given themselves to the making of this country. The very forests that the Negroes have turned into fertile fields are not often open to them. As I walk down the street, passing restaurants, cafes, hotels, not necessarily with blazing, glaring signs, but with a subtle determination, there is the expression, no admittance. Whether it be my religion, my aesthetic taste, my economic opportunity, my educational desire, whatever the craving is, I find a limitation because I suffer the greatest known handicap, a Negro. a Negro woman. I invite you to read more from The Closed Door of Mary McLeod Bethune. Great work. And we celebrate and laud her, and we are just at 20 minutes. Okay. I want to move forward as we come into these last 10 minutes to share a part of a writing from a well-known, I will go first to Dorothy Height before we close that out. I'll go to Dorothy Height first, and I'll bring up her photograph so that you can see Dorothy Height and share a little bit about her. Right. And this again is from Sisters in the Struggle, the African American Women in the Civil Rights Movement. We wanted the voice of a woman to be heard, she says. I had been active in the civil rights movement long before the 1963 March on Washington. One of the significant turning points came in 1962 when Stephen Currier called together a group of Black leaders because he felt that the Taconic Foundation, which he headed and which had been very supportive of Black causes, could take a lead in trying to get other philanthropic sources to give more support. And so he called together Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., president of SCLC, Whitney Young, executive director of the National Urban League, A. Philip Randolph, president of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, Roy Wilkins, executive director of the NAACP, James Farmer, national director of CORE, C. Eric Lincoln, a scholar who was doing a study on the Black Muslims, Jack Greenberg, executive director of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and myself. The point of this gathering was to begin to see how American philanthropy could be more supportive of Black organizations. At the outset, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was not there, but later SNCC was added, with James Foreman coming into the picture. The plan was that each leader would assume responsibility for chairing the group to study some area of philanthropy as it related to African Americans. Each took a field. I chose private voluntary organizations to assess their policies, governing boards, and what kind of support they gave, as well as the racial composition of the decision makers. For a stipend, each of us was required to make an agreement with the Taconic Foundation to attend a meeting at least every 6 weeks. The agreement stipulated that no substitute organizational representatives would attend the meeting. We would make this a serious study. One thing to bear in mind is that the group did not start out to become the United Civil Rights Leadership. All of the organizations had a civil rights agenda. It was as if it was part of a divine design that for over a year before the assassination of Medgar Evers on June 23, 1963, we had been meeting together steadily, discussing our differences and considering our different tactics. For example, we recognized that the NAACP had gone into the courts many times to get certain things done. At times, it was feared that the advances made by the NAACP would be lost if SNCC caused a disruption or was involved in direct confrontation. But we had worked through these issues together. There was also a lessening of the tension that had existed in the beginning. Dr. King once said, well, you know, one thing I did with the marches was to make the NAACP look respectable. Before that, many had asked, why do they, the NAACP, go into the courts? And he said, we have never found a way of dealing with our problems that was acceptable to the majority of the country. No matter what we did, we were criticized. Now we were marching, and the cry was that we shouldn't have the children marching. She goes on to I mean, this is beautifully done and written, and certainly I encourage you to read from these excerpts out of her own words. Um, a giant in the civil rights movement among women, a giant among civil rights persons, not just among women, a giant. And I want to just make sure before we hasten to a close, I wanted to read just an excerpt of Tired of Giving In from Rosa Parks. People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that isn't true. I was not tired physically, or no more tired than I usually was at the end of a working day. I was not old, although some people have an image of me as being old then. I was 42. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in. The driver of the bus saw me still sitting there, and he asked me, was I going to stand up? I said, no. He said, well, I'm going to have you arrested. Then I said, you may do that. These were the only words we said to each other. I didn't even know his name, which was James Blake, until we were in court together. He got out of the bus and stayed outside for a few minutes waiting for the police. As I sat there, I tried not to think about what might happen. I knew that anything was possible. I could be manhandled or beaten. I could be arrested. People have asked me if it occurred to me then that I could be the test case the NAACP had been looking for. I did not think about that at all. In fact, if I had let myself think too deeply about what might happen to me, I might have gotten off that bus. But I chose to remain. Meanwhile, there were people getting off the bus and asking for transfers, so that began to loosen up the crowd, especially in the back of the bus. Not everyone got off, but everybody was quiet. What conversation there was in low tones. No one was talking out loud. It would have been quite interesting to have seen the whole bus empty out. Or if the other three had stayed where they were, because if they had to arrest 4 of us instead of 1, then that would have given me a little support. But it didn't matter. I never thought hard of them at all and never even bothered to criticize them. Eventually, 2 policemen came. They got on the bus, and one of them asked me why I didn't stand up. I asked him, why do you all push us around? He said to me, and I quote him exactly, I don't know, but the law is the law, and you're under arrest. One policeman picked up my purse, and the second one picked up my shopping bag and escorted me to the squad car. In the squad car, they returned my personal belongings to me. They did not put their hands on me or force me into the car. After I was seated in the car, they went back to the driver and asked him if he wanted to swear out a warrant. He answered that he would finish his route and then come straight back to swear out the warrant. I was only in custody, not legally arrested, until the warrant was signed. As they were driving me to the city desk at City Hall near Court Street, one of them asked me again, why didn't you stand up when the driver spoke to you? I did not answer. I remained silent all the way to City Hall. As we entered the building, I asked if I could have a drink of water because my throat was real dry. There was a fountain and I was standing right next to it. One of the policemen said yes, but by the time I bent down to drink, another policeman said, no, you can't drink no water. You have to wait until you get to jail. So I was denied the chance to drink a sip of water. I was not going to do anything but wet my throat. I wasn't going to drink a whole lot of water, even though I was quite thirsty. That made me angry, but I didn't respond. At the city desk, they filled out the necessary forms as I answered questions such as what was my name and where did I live. I asked if I could make a telephone call, and they said no. Since that was my first arrest, I didn't know if that was more discrimination because I was Black or if it was standard practice. But it seemed to me to be more discrimination. Then they escorted me back to the squad car, and we went to the city jail on North Ripley Street. I wasn't frightened at the jail. I was more resigned than anything else. I don't recall being angry, real angry, not enough to have an argument. I was just prepared to accept whatever I had to face. I asked again if I could make a telephone call. I was ignored. They told me to put my purse on the counter and to empty my pockets of personal items. The only thing I had in my pocket was a tissue. I took that out. They didn't search me or handcuff me. I was then taken to an area where I was fingerprinted and where mug shots were taken. A white matron came to escort me to my jail cell, and I asked if I might use the telephone. She told me that she would find out. The matron returned and told me to come out of the cell. I did not know where I was going until we reached the telephone booth. She gave me a card and told me to write down who I was calling and the telephone number. She placed a dime in the slot, dialed the number, and stayed close by to hear what I was saying. I called home. My husband and my mother were both there. She answered the telephone. I said, "I'm in jail. See if Parks will come down here and get me out." She wanted to know, "Did they beat you?" I said, "No, I wasn't beaten, but I am in jail." She handed him the telephone and I said, "Parks, will you come get me out of jail?" He said, "I'll be there in a few minutes." He didn't have a car, so I knew it would be longer. But while we were still on the phone, a friend came by in his car. He'd heard about my being in jail and had driven to our place on Cleveland Court to see if he could help. He said he'd drive Parks to the jail. The matron took me back to the cell. This is an excerpt of the words of the late, great Rosa Parks, and I intended to highlight her and Dorothy Height and Ella Baker and Mary McLeod Bethune, among many women. We could go on and on. You know, women are making great history and great strides even today in 2022. But I think it is so important to take a look back at some of the women who were actively and intimately involved in the struggle and fight for civil rights from the inception of civil rights and are coming to this country. And I think the great women that stand on their shoulders are among many who we see, even those that are sitting in Senate hearings, probably as I speak, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who stand on the shoulders of these great women and who have done exceptional things. We salute them and all women during this Women's History Month of exceptional work and witness and the difference that you've made in the lives of men and women. As we prepare our close and ask for you to join us inside of Love and Stuff and ask for you to continue to celebrate and shout out women who have done and are doing extraordinary things, we hope that you will go to the Love and Stuff page, click the notification bell and follow, and drop a picture of a woman, hero, or shero in your life that we can use in our closing moments of this month on Friday, March 31st, as we close out the month, or the last Friday of the month as we close out this month, lifting up the names and voices and faces of those who have made great contributions to our world. It's been a great Love and Stuff. We have one more Women's History show before that end show. And we'll be coming into the month of April where we'll be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the Gratefulness Journey Everyday book.
Marcus, I want to congratulate you on Love and Stuff. I really want you to know that staying grateful and understanding the power of what it is to be operating out of a space of abundance and gratitude is the most important part of every journey of every day. So, Marcus June, congratulations on this book. It's on Amazon now. That makes me so proud of you and your family and me and my family, and every single person around us gets it. So, good on you for bringing it into the hands and the laps and the Kindles of all the people. Okay? So, we're going to check it out. Can't wait to learn more.
I'm so grateful for that shout out from MJ from Shires of Sunset. And I hope that you've enjoyed the content that we have shared in celebration of Women's History Month. So many women have contributed to many aspects of our world. And so we want to herald them in this month. And we in the Love and Stuff community, it is not lost on us that we're made up of 77% of women, 23% of fellas in the Love and Stuff community. So shouts out to you. And even with the 23% of the fellas who all have a mother or a wife or a sister or a grandma or a TT or someone that is in their heralded and hallowed heritage who has contributed to their lives, we want you to shout them out. And here's how we want you to do it. We want you to go to our Love and Stuff inbox and drop the picture and name of an individual who you'd like for us to include in our celebration toward the end of the month of women who have made an impact on your life or an impact on history. Maybe there is some woman who has served as mother or mentor, some woman that has been maternal to you, some woman who has been a mentor in your business or organization, the owner. There are so many women in so many different roles, and we want to celebrate them all by speaking their names and showing their pictures. So I hope that you will join me in doing that by going to the Love and Stuff community page and going to the inbox there and dropping a picture of someone who you admire, someone who we should celebrate, that you would have us do that. I want to give you a chance to partake in some of the wonderful things that we have in the Love and Stuff community. And right there is a QR code right on the screen for those of you that are single and you are looking for some affirmations. These are 10 affirmations that I advise you to incorporate in your life as you may be seeking the love that you want in partnership. There's some affirming statements that I want you to include in your life, and you can scan that QR code and get a copy of that affirming singles affirmations. They are daily affirmations and they will do you well. In addition to that, as promised, we have Love and Stuff gear that is available, and we hope that you will support us. 35% of the net proceeds go toward disaster relief, helping those students who need assistance and others in and around the Love and Stuff community. Here is our signature crew neck sweatshirt with our signature logo of the Love and Stuff. And we love that. We love the brand we wear. We wear the brand we love. We live the brand and we love the brand. And we hope that you will too by making a purchase today, scanning the QR code. There is also the Gratefulness Journey everyday gear that we will show in a moment. But I wanted to show this fitted long sleeve tee, which is the top seller on our site. Ladies love this, and a lot of ladies love this in red. Of course, it comes in many colors and sizes, but a number of ladies love it in red. It is available now by scanning that QR code. I want to keep it moving and let you know the Gratefulness Journey every day starts every morning when you awaken. And you could have a Gratefulness Journey everyday t-shirt in this heather color, or you can have it in any color in the rainbow. It's available to you now by clicking the link that's there. We also have the tote bag. We're here. I think it's only showing you part of the tote, but it is the the Gratefulness Journey everyday tote. Ladies, if you just want to put a few things that you're going to carry overnight or going somewhere nice, take our bag with you and see what happens to your love. We also have the long sleeve performance tee that we want love to spread like a pandemic. Now, we want it to spread as quickly as a pandemic. We don't want it to spread deadly, right? But we saw during the pandemic that so much was spreading quickly. We want love to spread as quickly throughout our lives. I'm moving through. Love is front and center. Our hoodie and sweatshirt are both available. Here it's pictured in the white. I believe that if you're truly about love, your love should be front and center. So here's an opportunity to do that. And of course, it comes in multiple colors, but I love it in the black. Here's the heavy blend sweatshirt. And love in front and center means that you're ready for love and you're not afraid to show it. If you want some tips on how to show it, you should follow the love activist. I am advocating for a better love for you and me. And there are some things I will tell you about putting your love front and center. We're in the month of March and we're all marching into physical fitness and activity if you're following our self-care journey and you have your self-care ebook. But here is the 6-pack unisex shirt. It says, I got a 6-pack. I just haven't opened it yet. If you're like me and you're working on your 6-pack or 12-pack or 18-pack or whatever pack, you should get one of these t-shirts that are available in multiple colors as pictured here. It's one of our designs of a 6-pack. Of course, we love our gear that's happening in our sports talk with Kamal and Felix. Shout out to Kamal Williams and Felix Holmes. They're doing a fantastic job with their gear. Here is their gear, the hoodie, and here's the sweatshirt. If you want either of them, we're going to wait till spring comes back and debut again the t-shirt dress lady so that you can get it rocking into spring and summer. And a couple of other products I want to share with you. It is the self-care ebook that I mentioned. So this has 12 months of tools and tips that will help you live your best life by caring first for yourself. Women, especially, you're caring for the world. You are parents and caregivers for parents and foster care for nieces and nephews. You are taking care of extra children in the neighborhood, at the church, in the school. You're caring for husbands, spouses, and partners. And we want you to care for you, because how can we save the world if we don't save ourselves, take care of ourselves? You are the first caregiver of choice, and we want you to follow the gratefulness journey every day through self-care. And the self-care ebook is available for you by clicking that link. Also, if you are following Lent or you are following a regimen where you want to nourish yourself with the best food, you definitely want to get the Live It to Love ebook. It's a 31-day guide. It takes you through a vegetable possibilities of healthy eating and removing some things temporarily from your diet to jumpstart your diet so that you live, you don't live to eat, but you eat to live. You can get either of those. And if you are looking to get into a coaching series with me and you're trying to get to the next level in your job, career, or promotion, that's available as well. So we wanted to share a few of those products and opportunities with you before we go to a close. We appreciate that you have joined us tonight. Speaking of join, you can join the sports talk group with Kamal and Felix by clicking on this QR code. It'll take you right to the page to join. We would love to have you join. Their group is continuing to grow and needs some great men and women who have a love for sports or who have a love to learn new things. Ladies, if you want to find out what your fellas are doing with all these sports, Kamal and Felix will take you through sports in fun and laughter. You want to enjoy that. And if you want to support this stream, you can support this stream by clicking on this link here. Whatever you give toward the support helps us to keep Love and Stuff going across all shows, including Love and the Scripture with Darren Williams, which will be on tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sports Talk with Kamal and Felix, which will be next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Gratefulness Journey every day, Passion Friday, and all of these opportunities for us to increase the amount of love in the world. So whether you're watching us here live from the Love and Stuff page or the Marcus R. Holmes page or any of the groups or pages attached here on Facebook, on LinkedIn Live, on Twitch TV, on YouTube events, or Twitter, we want to thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm Marcus Holmes, the love activist. I'm advocating for a better love for you and me, because what the world needs more of, I am sure, is love. I hope that you will join us next week. We'll continue to celebrate women in various ways throughout the month. We'll continue to come back around to much of what we have attempted to celebrate throughout the time. And I'm so appreciative of having you here. Thanks so much and have a great night.